Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. My
So
pleasure.
I got lost in myself there for a second. Um, Look, to me, this is such an interesting picture to look at because you have to have, for the most part, a film that is filled with such vibrant colors, but then it's kind of cut in some ways with a more, not dull, but a more dulcet kind of washed out color around the surroundings. Like, what does it take to work that kind of setting out?
You know, because I mean, everything comes from this concept of just present, of just witness uh, this life of this family, and only the context and sound makes the change it completely. But everything comes from this concept where we just decide to not to judge, not to put an interpretation and a
Mm.
look and like Lukasz behind the camera and just witness it. And then it means that everything in this film was as close to the reality as possible. So the house was exactly as it was it was as it was in 1933. The colors, the garden, it looked exactly the same as it looked 8 years ago. So basically it was just to serve this story and just to present this life. So it's it's a completely different, because I had to forget about the old cinematography
Mm.
means and the tools and the tricks you normally use, just making a film, like portraits, kind of manipulation with the camera, complicated camera movements or something. Well, let's forget completely about that, just to just to find a camera position, just to be as much objective as possible, to just witness to this what is happening.
Because I mean, I didn't know if I could believe it at the time because I think the first time I read it was like Wikipedia, but it was like you almost like locked off the cameras and kind of cleared as many people as out as you could, just kind of let things unfold. Is that the case?
Yeah, that's the case. The case was just, we had this house and the garden which were 70 yards from the real house and the real camp. So the layout of our house and the garden was completely as it was in reality. So we could see the towers from our place, the towers of the real camp. So basically, we have this set, but the idea was to have a set which doesn't look like a movie set. There
Mm.
is no lights, no like any flags and reflectors, anything. Just the cameras, which are small, which are hidden, which are attached to the walls, hidden in the bushes, in the cupboards. I mean, covered with fabric. So, and then we are prepping our cameras, and then when we are ready, when we have all the positions ready, all the angles, all the lenses, then we're just going, focus pullers and camera assistant were going to the basement of the house. So there was like a place where there was all the tools
Mm.
and cables, and me, John, my camera operator, I mean everybody, we were going out from the set. We were leaving our house and the garden, going to the container behind the wall where was our mission control, where was the sound, there was our DITs, and all the there was our control room with 10 monitors. And then the actors were on in the house or in the garden, and we are just witnessing what is there. And of course, John has a communication. There was one person, there was second AD on set, but only one or two people and nobody else.
Wow.
And then they were just there, and they didn't know, actors, they didn't know when we were filming, and non-professional actors, for example, the servants, I mean everybody apart actors, the people who are in working in a house, like servants, etc. So they were not professional actors, so very often they didn't know what is happening.
Mm.
So, and actors sometimes didn't know what is happening, because I mean they didn't know if we are shooting, because we are shooting also a lot of 50-50. So yeah, we were just preparing this and leaving this place, and they were just there.
Wow.
and we are just shooting. We had like 10 setups. So we had all the setups after every take. So that is why you can cut this in such a simultaneous way, and you have this continuity of movement, continuity of weather, of light changes, of weather changes, of dog running. So you have this perfect continuity. And after 1 or 2 hours, we were done, with our scene, for example.
Was that for literally everything that happened around the house? Because I mean, when it has the sections where there were camera movements, for instance, following the dog around outside, was that something that was done separately while you were on set, or is it still controlled remotely at all?
Some of the shots, for example, like in the garden, where we're in the garden and a house. So, for example, we were shooting simultaneously. So, for example, 5 cameras or I don't know, 7 or 6 were in a house, and for example 3 were in the garden. So very often we're mixing. So we have cameras in the garden and in a house, and if there was a dolly, the dolly was not remote. We have our grip. We try to hide him as much as possible, so we didn't want him to be visible. So yes, but the dolly shots, there is not so many of dolly shots, but if they were the part of the rest of the cameras, mostly. Yeah. So, but for example, 9 was fixed off and 1 was on a dolly. We have a remote head, but we didn't use it. We just use it for technical movements.
What about going back to then talking about just like what was there is what you used? What was it? What were the specifics of what you would consider, I guess, visual effects? For instance, one of my things that I loved about the movie, and we are saying loved about it because it's the implications of what's going on are so horrific, but it's just the smoke of the train over the top of the fencing. Did you actually have something practical there, or that was put in post?
It was put in post. I mean, everything what is behind the wall, it is done in post. So of course we had a green screen. So the wall was the end of our set. So everything what is behind the wall, it was put in post-production. But for example, where is the shot, like a dolly shot, when Hedwig is walking to the river. So this shot was shot against the real camp. But of course, in a post, we made, I mean, not me, because I wasn't doing the post, but yeah, but we did that. The camp was from 1933 because the trees were different, and the camp looked different. It was new, it was brand new, and everything. So just they need to make this, almost like a new. Yeah, they need to make this look quite new because it was new. So basically, everything what was behind the wall was post-production.
Okay.
But we, while we were on set, we had an iPad with a visualization. So when we are moving this iPad, and so we were able to see what are we going to see, for example, through the windows, what barracks we will see, if we will see the chimney, etc., etc. So we were moving the iPad, so we are able to see what's going to be behind the wall.
What about, I mean, I don't know what the specifics of what you guys called it. I consider it, even though again it was real people, I consider it the fairy tale / folklore sections of the film that were shot basically looking like photo negative. Was it always the plan to go that way, or that was a discussion that had to go on to decide how you wanted to present those sections of the movie?
It comes because, as I said at the beginning, everything comes from this concept to be as close to reality as possible, be as simple as possible, be functional, be unadorned, be real. I mean, just present this as it was in 1943. And so that means that also this section of Olusha, the little girl, was shot on night vision thermal camera. Because there was no lights. It was a blackout and there was no available light. So that was the only way to shoot it, because if you don't have a lights, I mean, and then we didn't want to use, I mean, big cherry pickers with a big sources and pretend that the moonlight is shining. because it was a blackout, and so that is why we didn't have any reason to use artificial lights. So the only choice was night vision and thermal camera. So, and but of course, it just can lead to the interpretation that she's a light, she's a hope, she's kind of glowing, and then because it shows this good part of human nature, the hope, the goodness, and because she's helping, she's a real person who died a few years ago. So, but we are shooting, but when we were shooting when she's playing piano, so we were shooting in her real house.
Wow. Of
this woman. She was 90 when she died, and it was her house, it was her furniture, it was her backpack, and it was her dress.
Like for instance, I know that he went through like archives and got a lot of access to a lot of information of the specifics of these people, be them for good or for better or for worse. Did you feel a necessity to go through every piece that he went through as well, or you were able to kind of just go off of what you knew and what you wanted to present, and that was all that mattered?
So first of all, I've read, because John sent me some books to read, but that it wasn't a lot. It was just mostly things about Rudolf Höss, his biography, and different books about him and what he did. And also, there was we were in an archive, so we were just looking at the pictures and documents which were were just presenting what happened. And also there was 26 pictures of Höss family, how they were just presenting their lives. So because they were taking pictures, then Nanny, she was taking pictures of their lives. So we saw the garden, the house, how it looked, how the real house and the garden looked like, and it was very interesting that they were never pointing the camera towards the wall. They were just showing the garden and the house, but never the wall. That's how they looked at their life. It was so interesting. So that was it. And I think very important person for me in this process was our co-producer Bartek Raiński, who was in contact with Auschwitz Museum, and he has enormous knowledge about this. So being on the locations, because he was with us on every recce, and we just become friends during this production. So on every location, he was just telling me, "Oh, Lukasz, okay, so here happened this and this and this, and did you know that? And did you know that?" Where we were in a recce in a camp, he was just giving me extra informations about this. Would probably, it's quite hard to read in the books, or maybe you should spend enormous time to just get this knowledge. So Bartek was, he gave me so much knowledge about this, what happened, and and I think that was so important to me. So that was my process. But I think scouting the camps, and then just being there, and but we were talking about that all the time, even like my crew, and like we're gathering sometimes in the evening just for a glass of wine, and then we're just talking about it, talking about what we're doing, how we feel with this, and how, and it's like it was a constant conversation about that, just being there, like 30, 80 or 70 yards from the real camp, so you can feel this, and it's impossible to forget about it. So it was present in our life all the time. This will happen. So I think that was my process, just being there, going for scoutings, and being in this place, and just carrying this with me, and that was it, I think.
Lukasz, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it. Have a great rest of the day.
Thank you. Have a great day. Thank you. Bye-bye.